2,300,000 stones, some weighing over 70 tons, heavier than 10 elephants, stacked 150 meters into the sky. And we built this over 4,000 years ago. No cranes, no steel, no machinery, just people. So how? The honest answer? We still don't fully know. But one theory, backed by science, might change everything you thought you knew about the ancient world. The pyramids of Giza have puzzled scientists and researchers for centuries, and none more so than the Great Pyramid of Khufu, built from 2.3 million stones, some weighing over 70 tons, rising 150 meters into the sky. Even today, with modern technology, cranes, and advanced engineering, replicating this feat would be an enormous challenge. So how did people from over 4,000 years ago pull this off, armed with nothing but basic metal tools and some wooden beams? In this episode of Midnight Questions, we're answering, how did the ancient Egyptians build the pyramids? Before we get to the real answer, let's clear some things up. Some people believe aliens built the pyramids. There are actual studies on this, but there's zero evidence. And honestly, it underestimates one of the greatest civilizations in history. The pyramids of Giza have puzzled scientists and researchers for centuries, and none more so than the Great Pyramid of Khufu, built from 2.3 million stones, some weighing over 70 tons, rising 150 meters into the sky. Even today, with modern technology, cranes, and advanced engineering, replicating this feat would be an enormous challenge. So how did people from over 4,000 years ago pull this off, armed with nothing but basic metal tools and some wooden beams? I'm Omar Abdeen, and in this episode of Midnight Questions, we're answering, how did the ancient Egyptians build the pyramids? Before we get to the real answer, let's clear some things up. Some people believe aliens built the pyramids. There are actual studies on this, but there's zero evidence, and honestly, it underestimates one of the greatest civilizations in history. Others genuinely believe the ancient Egyptians were enormous, like Attack on Titan enormous, but the mummies in our museums tell a different story. Normal-sized people, normal-sized coffins. Moving on. The story most of us learned growing up goes like this. Workers quarried massive stones from southern Egypt, transported them hundreds of miles, built giant earthen ramps around the pyramid, and dragged the stones up on wooden rollers using ropes and manpower. Sounds reasonable, right? Except it doesn't hold up. For those ramps to support 70-ton stones, they'd need to be reinforced like reinforced concrete, not packed earth, which would simply collapse under that weight. The wooden rollers would snap. You'd need steel wheels at minimum. And here's the kicker. The earthen ramp required to reach the pyramid's height would need to be 10 times larger than the pyramid itself. Then you'd have to dismantle it without leaving a trace. And we found no trace. None. Some researchers proposed that workers wet the sand in front of the sleds to reduce friction by nearly half, and there's actually some archaeological evidence for that. But even that doesn't solve the core problem. How do you get a 70-ton stone 150 meters into the air? Nobody has a clean answer. Here's where it gets interesting. Swiss researcher Eric van Deniken and French chemist Joseph Davidovits proposed something radical. The pyramid stones weren't carved, they were cast, like concrete. Davidovits argued that the ancient Egyptians had a recipe, a mix of clay, minerals, and specific chemicals that when heated and poured into molds, hardened into artificial rock that looks and feels exactly like natural stone and can last thousands of years. Think about what that solves. No need to quarry and transport millions of massive stones. No need to carve perfect surfaces with primitive tools. No need to haul 70 tons up a ramp. You just pour it in place, like concrete blocks stacked in molds. And this theory got a serious boost from an unexpected source. A group of scientists were scanning the interior of the Great Pyramid with advanced imaging equipment, looking for hidden chambers. Suddenly, their instruments started giving strange, inconsistent readings. The equipment was working fine. The only logical explanation? The pyramid stones contained an unusually high level of water molecules, far more than you'd ever find in natural rock. That's the kind of water content you'd expect in a man-made material, like geopolymer concrete. Davidovits ran his own experiments. He tried to recreate the recipe. It worked. He produced stones of comparable size and density that bonded together without any adhesive. Researchers are still working to decode the exact formula the ancient Egyptians used, but this much is clear. They knew things we're still trying to understand in astronomy, chemistry, medicine, and apparently material science. So to wrap it up, the most scientifically compelling answer to how did the Egyptians build the pyramids isn't ramps, it isn't aliens, it isn't giants. It might just be that they were master chemists who figured out how to pour stone. No one can deny that the ancient Egyptians reached a level of knowledge in certain fields that we still haven't fully matched, even with all our modern technology. If you have a question that keeps you up at night, drop it in the comments and we'll answer it in a future episode. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell, and I'll see you next time.